Okay, it's 11:02. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Good morning again. Hello, my name is Tanisha Nunn, and I am the president and CEO of the African American Chamber of Commerce of Central Florida, and I will serve as today's moderator. I am so excited to be here today on behalf of the Orlando Magic, and I do have on the colors. I have to say I'm representing for the Magic. I'm happy to be here on behalf of the Magic and all of our panelists as we continue this month-long Walk With Us Town Hall series in celebration of Black History Month. You can learn more about the Orlando Magic's remaining webinars and celebrations, including the opportunity to celebrate in person at the February 27th home game against the Utah Jazz. You can visit orlandomagic.com/walkwithus for more information. Again, that's orlandomagic.com/walkwithus. Today's webinar is focused on the positive business impact of supplier diversity, and we have some incredible panelists today to share their expertise with us. Please join me in welcoming Isu Mayat, Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at the Orlando Magic, Camille Evans, Managing Partner at Vertus LLP, Brandon Lee, Director of Finance at Lee, Wesley and Associates, Tony Jenkins, Market President for Florida Blue, and Leonard Spencer, Director, Supplier, Diversity and Sustainability at the Walt Disney Company. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Tanisha.
Absolutely. I'm going to start with some questions for the panel, and we will open it up to the audience for questions at the end. You can use your phone to scan the QR code on your screen. It's coming up right now to ask questions of our panel, or you can visit slido.com. That's SLIDO.com, again, SLIDO.com, and enter the event code Walk With Us to submit your questions for any of our panelists. Before we go into questions for the panel, we have some poll questions for the audience on Slido. So you can scan that and we will get started with our first poll question. The first question: according to the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council, to classify as a diverse supplier, what percentage of the business must be owned and operated by an individual or group that is part of a traditionally underrepresented or undeserved group? That's question number one. Go ahead and let's put your answer in, please. We're doing good. We got 87% said the right. Oh, wait a second. Don't change your answers. Can't do that. Always go with your first choice. I'll give it one more second. Okay, we did good. The correct answer is 51%, and we had 75% to get that correct. Let's move on to our second poll question. According to current census data, there are roughly how many women-owned businesses in the city of Orlando? And you'll see your choices come up: 15,000, 20,000, or 10,000.
Oh, this one's a tight race.
It is, Isu. Ooh. Okay. Wow. Okay, so that's a very tight race. We have a tie, 41%. Now we went up to 42. 42% said 15,000 and 42% said 10,000. That correct answer is 15,000. We have 15,000 women-owned businesses here in the city of Orlando. Our third poll question: according to current census data, there are roughly how many people of color own businesses in the city of Orlando? And you'll see the choices come up: 10,000, 12,000, or 18,000. Okay, getting a little closer. So the correct answer for that is 18,000, which we had 35% of our attendees answer that correctly. We will move on to our next and final poll question for this part. According to the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council, nationally, diverse suppliers accounted for the creation or preservation of how many jobs in the year 2020? Okay, the correct answer is 2.2 million jobs. So thank you so much for participating in our poll questions this morning. We did pretty good. And then if we didn't know the answers, then we all learned something new this morning. So thank you for participating. We're going to kick it off and we will start with Isu. I'm going to pose our first question to you this morning. Good morning. How are you?
I am well, Tanisha. Thank you. Good morning. And good morning, everybody else on the panel and everybody out there.
Absolutely. So Isi, you've had a long career in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and bring many years of experience and expertise to the Orlando Magic. Please share with us your vision for integrating diversity, equity, and inclusion within the organization.
Thanks for that question. I always begin by saying, first of all, there was so much that the organization was doing already before I got here. In fact, in 2020, the organization received the Orlando Business Journal Diversity in Business Award, recognizing the organization for its diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, its commitment to supplier diversity, and its commitment to social justice, among other things. And so for me, my focus has been to tie all of the great initiatives that are already happening, tie them to an overall strategic framework that will result in diversity, equity, and inclusion being not just the right thing to do, not just a moral imperative, but good for people in our organization, good for business, and good for the community overall. And supply diversity is a big part of that. To date, thinking about the Amway Center being built, since that time, we've spent over $1 million with diverse suppliers, and even our current project, the Advent Health Training Facility, we estimate by the end of that project, by the time that project is complete, we will have spent 30% of that business will have gone to diverse suppliers, which, as you all know, is an extraordinary percentage, giving the average supplier diversity spend in general. And so, look, as we always say, we know we have a lot of work to do, but we are committing to getting the work done.
Wonderful. Well, you're off to a great start by evidence of just this town hall series that you put together for the month, and in particular, this webinar to highlight and focus on supplier diversity. So, on behalf of the Chamber, I definitely look forward to working with you and the Magic as you build upon the foundation and increase supplier diversity efforts. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
we're going to move on. And Tony, hey, good morning, Tony. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Glad to be here. Glad to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So Tony, you recently led the Orlando Economic Partnerships Task Force in the commitment to improve regional diversity, equity, and inclusion outcomes by launching its Take the Pledge initiative. Can you tell us a little bit more about that pledge, please?
Sure. And let me say that I'm very proud of this community and the business community specifically to be able to address and bring to the conversation with business leaders in our area the topic of racism, the topic of inequality, because a lot of communities can just bypass it and not deal with it, especially during the past summer last year when there was a lot of disruption and a lot of conversations. And this community chose to be able to discuss the tough topics. And so we created amongst the business leaders in this market a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force. And one of the primary goals of that task force was to get business leaders to ultimately sign a pledge that they were going to be committed to certain actions, both inside their companies, but to also be a voice as a leader for change, for action-oriented improvements in our market. And we ask business leaders to sign, to put their name on this pledge, to put their name on this commitment. And I'm proud to say that the pledge and that whole effort to look at our workforce was co-chaired by our own Mr. Leonard Spencer from Disney, who's on this panel today, and Angela Lagos from Universal Studios. So, and we had over 100 business leaders in this community sign that pledge. And I'm very proud that that Alex Martins, the CEO from the Orlando Magic, was one of the signers. Tanisha, you and your organization, the African American Chamber, signed it. And many other organizations, from Advent Health to Tavistock, to many others, were a part of that pledge. So I would have to say that that was a great commitment by the business leaders in this market to take ownership, to be able to discuss what's needed related to change in our community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony, and for all your hard work. Like you said, I mean, those were some tough conversations to have, but they were very needed. And I am proud that our community was able to come together under your leadership, Leonard's and Angela, as you mentioned, and have those conversations and come with something concrete. So for our attendees, where can they go to find out more about this pledge, who signed it, and if they're interested in signing it, where can they find that information?
Sure, and the good news is the pledge wasn't the only work that we've done. We're still continuing to meet as a task force. So I would encourage anyone that's interested in finding more about the DEI work that the Orlando Economic Partnership is working on, to find out more about information about the pledge. Go to the Orlando Economic Partnership's website. And I think that you can just take a look. I think we've got a section on there called Take the Pledge, and you can find out and see who has signed the pledge and more information about how you and your organization can also participate.
All right, thank you, Tony. Moving right along to Camille. Hello, Camille, how are you? You're holding it down for the women business owners on this panel today and in the community all over. You got this, nice to see you. Camille, you are the co-founder and managing partner of a law firm that specializes in corporate and financial services matters. Statistically, these aren't fields where you find many Black entrepreneurs. Has this been a challenge for you, or does it actually help you when pursuing business opportunities and new clientele?
First of all, thank you, Tanisha, for the question. Thank you to the Magic for hosting this and continuing the conversation. Your question's spot on and it's very good. Number one, I will say it helps us in that there is a passion among businesses and financial institutions to really figure out ways to solve their supplier diversity issues. How can they actually produce relationships with firms like mine that reflect the values that we carry and they carry, and more importantly, do so with excellence. You know, I think the thing that is the challenge part of it is that our firm is small. And we operate in an area that is traditionally not very diverse, laws, not diverse financial institutions, and their transactions have not had a lot of diverse participants. And so the initial reflection or the initial kind of hesitation you meet is does this firm carry the talent and the experience to be able to do the matters that we're trying to assign to them? The benefit that I have is that we have the resume that shows, yes, we do. The challenge, though, is that pipeline of diverse talent has not always been fed and nurtured. And so there are a lot of gaps in opportunities for qualified professionals to stay the course, to graduate to where my firm was able to do, to found and launch in a very sophisticated field. So it's beneficial for us because we've been able to stay the course before we launched to have that foundation. But it's also very challenging because you also have to overcome the challenge of internal processes within these institutions that don't readily lend themselves to vetting you to get to be on the list, so to speak, and to go through the different qualifying exercises you have to do to also then build the confidence of your frontline service providers that we as counsel engage with, because there's a difference between having an organizational leadership desire to engage supplier diversity and then actually having your frontline service professionals who engage with that diverse supplier on a day-to-day basis in a way that builds relationships, fosters longevity in contracts, and actually builds the amount of work that you're assigning to that diverse supplier so that their revenue can build.
Thank you, Camille. You're spot on. And I think you were just saying there has to be a connection between not just what plan of action that the organization has in place, but those who are working within the organization have to develop those relationships with diverse suppliers to make sure that they're actually building that gap. So thank you so much for that and for pointing that out to us. Moving right on to Leonard. Hello there, how are you? Nice to see you.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. You've got your official Disney tag on. I love it.
Right next to my heart, right?
Always, always. So Leonard, we have all seen the recent push to support Black businesses with hashtags like hashtag support Black businesses and hashtag buy Black, which we're all here happy to be able to see that. Has Disney made any efforts to enhance their support of diverse business owners from various backgrounds?
Tanisha, that's a great question. And first of all, let me thank the Orlando Magic and Isu for pulling us all together. Tanisha, you've been doing a fantastic job moderating the panel, so thank you for that. Tony, it's great to be a part of the task force under your leadership to kind of pull the pledge together. And final thank you to really the rest of the panelists. It's really an honor to be here with you all today. And so Tanisha, back to your question, when we think about supplier diversity and all the things that happened, well, at Disney, we really believe that inclusion is a critical part for us in terms of telling the best stories, being relevant, and expanding our audiences. When we look at the ideas and decisions that come from all people, they're going to help us grow, they're going to help us be innovative, and they're going to help us create the best stories. And they're going to help us remain relevant as the world continues to change, because we're in this rapidly changing environment. And I think I've heard a few people kind of reference last summer, the social unrest that we saw. And we've seen companies have this renewed focus on diversity and specifically Black business. Now, what I'm happy to say is that the Walt Disney Company and Walt Disney World Resort have been at this and in this game for many, many years. We've got a long-standing commitment to working with diverse businesses in Central Florida and really throughout the country. Because Disney believes that including diverse suppliers in our sourcing process is going to give us the best opportunity to develop innovative, high-quality, value-driven business solutions. And through our experience, we know that our supplier diversity program is going to strengthen us on the inside while also helping us support communities and small businesses and diverse businesses on the outside. And my team internally strives to ensure that our business leaders across the company have a broad and deep understanding for the business case for working with diverse suppliers and the competitive advantage that these diverse suppliers can bring to our company. Because we know we are a better company when our supply chain and our people, cast members at all levels, reflect the life experiences of our guests and our audiences and our fans, not just in the United States, but around the world. And we're continuing to thrive as a business when we can continue to get that input and those ideas from all people. And we encourage them to provide those ideas and that input when they sit around the decision-making table. And so when I see the hashtags and I see all this renewed focus, I'm applauding all of those efforts. I'm excited to see so many companies joining us as we speak up for and support causes that really matter. I think about, Disney's Aspire program, our Reimagine Tomorrow initiative, our commitment to recruiting from HBCUs and my work in supplier diversity. It makes me proud to know that Disney is continuing to wield its cultural influence in pursuit of a future where everyone can be respected, valued, and attain their full potential.
Thank you, Leonard. And I think I heard you were getting at, this is more than just a hashtag. This is a movement. Yes. And that, by working with diverse suppliers, it just enhances the company. And that's something that you all at Disney were doing prior to everything we saw in 2020. And, I can personally attest, and I shared with you, I hope I did, if I didn't, I will, but Disney participated in our Black Business Conference last August, and in our supplier diversity matchmaking day 2 of the conference. And one of our chamber members was super excited that she just received a pretty substantial contract with Disney as a result of that business conference last August. So I want to thank you, Disney. You were already committed to the chamber, to the community, to supplier diversity, and I applaud your efforts as you continue to grow and even expand it even further. So thank you, Leonard.
Thanks, Tanisha.
And we're moving on. Hey, good morning, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great, nice to see you. Fellow board member for the African American Chamber of Commerce, so I have to point that out. So Brandon, the next question is for you. Goldman Sachs' 10,000 Small Businesses report stated that Black business owners who apply for funding have a rejection rate 3 times higher than that of their white counterparts. What challenges did your company face when starting a business, specifically in the food service industry, where there are traditionally a lot of startup costs?
First of all, I want to say thanks for having me today. And thanks to all the other panelists for being here and the Orlando Magic for putting this together. With the restaurant industry, when we go to a bank seeking financial assistance to start up or for acquisitions or anything, typically Black businesses do not get that quote unquote the benefit of the doubt. So with any type of loan package that a bank puts together, there's always some doubt that it may not work or it may not go in the best way. But ultimately, when the loan is given, they believe in the business. But typically, the rejection rate is higher because we don't get that benefit of the doubt. Most recently, we had an acquisition where we presented to 26 banks and only 3 entertained our proposal. So it's just the benefit of the doubt that a lot of Black businesses don't seem to get.
That's wow. I don't even know what to say to that. You presented to 26 banks and only received any interest from 3. And your company, has been long-standing and you have well-established history here. So that's evidence, of we have a long way to go. Black businesses have often struggled with access to capital, and what, Brandon just shared with us is evidence that we still have a long way to go. Thank you, Brandon. And, I'll go right into the next question, which is for Camille and Brandon, but Camille, we'll start with you. What type of resources would you like to see more accessible to African American entrepreneurs in 2021 now and even beyond?
Thanks, Tanisha. My answer is actually not necessarily resources, it's opportunities. I think the issue that Brandon just articulated, and his company has done very great work and has grown and is strong, but I think it reflects the fact that a lot of times diverse businesses are not getting significant enough contracts that give a bank underwriting confidence to give them what they need to then have capital to facilitate growth. So when I say I want Black businesses to have more resources in the realm of opportunities, it's opportunities that companies that are engaged in these diverse businesses have really done the math of what is the cost of doing business for that supplier, and is the work that I am asking them to do and the revenue that I'm going to pay them for that work really going to be a strong contribution to their bottom line in their operating, or am I asking them to provide service for a very high quality client, but on a shoestring budget that I'm then going to consistently compare and contrast them to larger, less diverse institutions, and they're operating kind of at a disadvantage. So, really doing the work of making sure that as we engage more diverse businesses, that we're engaging them in contracts and opportunities that are going to produce revenue consistent with what they need to produce to operate at the level of excellence we seek from them.
Thank you, Camille. And that's a great point. It's not necessarily resources, but it's about opportunities. And Brandon, we'll go back to you, same question. What types of resources or opportunities would you like to see more accessible for African-American Black-owned businesses this year and beyond?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the times it's who you know. So opportunities to develop relationships with bank executives, senior VPs and higher. Also, especially for people starting out new businesses, education on what financial institutions are actually looking for when evaluating proposals, so that they can have a nice and tight proposal to present to banks.
Thank you for that, Brandon. So, networking is important, which is one of the things that we help our chamber members do. So shameless plug for the African American Chamber of Commerce of Central Florida. But you're correct, it's about building those relationships with those senior executives in banks. So thank you for sharing that. We're going back to you, Leonard. Here in Central Florida and statewide, and really, as you know, worldwide, businesses want an opportunity to do business with Disney. Everybody wants a contract with Disney, although everybody's not ready for a contract with Disney. What advice do you have for any businesses interested in doing business with Disney? I'm sure you get this a lot.
Tanisha, that's a great question. I get it at least 4 or 5 times a day. That's part of what my team does, right? And so my team really works hard to ensure that we're creating an equitable and fair opportunity for anyone who wants to be a part of Disney's economic ecosystem, that they have an opportunity to do so. And so we start with, sort of what we do to kind of help, find these companies who want to do business with us. We invest in a wide variety of organizations across the country that support diverse businesses. We also do that here in Central Florida, as you know, Tanisha, with our investments in the African American Chamber, the Florida State Minority Supplier Development Council, and others. And these organizations are designed to provide services, as you mentioned earlier, that can connect and develop diverse businesses so that they can compete and win competitive business opportunities with companies like Disney or other corporations across the state or across the country. And so specifically, my team spends a part of their days really providing mentoring and matchmaking opportunities directly and in partnership with organizations like yours, Tanisha, to help facilitate those connections, help to facilitate the awareness and relationship building, as Camille and Brandon mentioned earlier. And so to get to the heart of your question, I would advise any company that's interested in doing business with, Disney or any other major corporation to really take some time and understand the business, right? For Disney, maybe you should, spend some time, read up on our annual report, spend some time at our theme parks, visit our resorts, so you can understand how we do business, and then be able to articulate to us a compelling business case about how your product or service can add value or solve a business need, right? I would also advise them, be patient. it can take some time. In many instances, there may not be an immediate need for the product or service that your company provides because, it may be under contract with another supplier for a number of years. And also when you think about it being under contract by another supplier. So if you think about companies who've been around as long as Disney, in a lot of categories, there's already an incumbent, right? And so it becomes very important for the business owner to be able to, again, understand our business, understand their business, and then be able to articulate their business case to us, right? And then, finally, I'll close with this. We're looking for great suppliers, right? We're looking for diverse suppliers who can offer solutions that are going to solve our business needs. And we know, based on experience, we've been doing this for a while, that there are many diverse suppliers right here in Central Florida who can do just that. And so I would encourage anybody who's interested in doing business with Disney to visit us at www.supplierdiversity.disney.com, where they can learn more about our supplier diversity program and register their company on our portal.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Leonard. We're going to stick along that same approach. Tony, can you talk about the approach that Florida Blue takes for supplier diversity, including resources and advice for suppliers in their approach with Florida Blue?
Thanks a lot. As Florida's leading health insurer, and I want to say health insurer, but we've really expanded who we are as a company. And actually, a few years ago, we changed our title, and we call ourselves a health solutions company, not just an insurance company, because we've opened up specific care delivery centers ourselves. We have our own emergency urgent care centers. We own Tanishas, who provides culturally competent care. So as you can imagine, it expands the opportunities for suppliers to look at us, to do partnerships and to consider them for work. And I would have to say that our work has really been across the whole state, supporting efforts to take a look at how businesses can bid for opportunities with us. And I would have to say that right now, I was just on a call this morning, and I'm excited to say that we are revamping our whole supplier diversity program, and we are going to be working with Accenture to develop a diverse supplier development program. And we're really excited about this. It's going to be a 18-month program where we mentor specific companies, and you'll hear more about it. But we're really excited about our efforts to really engage with small businesses, because we know that this opportunity for us adds more innovation in our organization. It adds to the economic vitality of the communities that these businesses represent. So we're excited to begin to enhance our program. And again, you'll hear more about it. But we've been doing this, focusing on supplier diversity for many, many years. I'm just excited that with our enhanced efforts, that we're going to be putting some more muscle behind it, which will come out soon.
That's good to know, Tony. And I'm excited too. And I look forward to, I'm sure with all of us, to hearing more about that. That's awesome. And I just want to encourage our attendees to put any questions you may have, use that QR code that came up earlier so that we can make sure we answer your questions before we close out. And we're going to move on to our next question, which we're back to Isu. How can DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, be a priority for companies when businesses have other big issues to deal with? And I say big like this.
I like that, big issues.
Exactly.
I mean, I think, first of all, for the last 15 minutes, the panelists have been talking about some very big issues. And listen, part of the promise of diversity is exactly the new talent, new ideas, new consumers, new markets that the rest of the panelists have alluded to this entire time.
Isu, I'm sorry, you were on mute.
Y'all missed all of that? I said, for the last 15 minutes, the entire panel has been talking about some pretty big issues, in my opinion. And look, the promise of diversity itself, part of that promise is this idea that we will be able to attract new talent and new ideas, new consumers and new markets. Everybody has alluded to that already. And so it's hard to ignore even kind of the seismic demographic shifts and changes in our society that make sustainability for the future attainable for companies who understand the value of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That being said, we are all playing the long game. We have momentum, as everybody has alluded to, from May 25th to January 6th. Everything that happened in that time period, May 25th, 2020 to January 6th, 2021, everything that has happened in that time period has, if nothing else, have amplified the call for change. And so it's given us an opportunity that we maybe haven't had in a very long time to address certain systemic issues that need to be addressed. But again, to a certain extent, we're also playing the long game. And all I can say is for us, our strategy right now is, number one, to build that cross-cultural dexterity that we need inside of our organization so that we understand these issues, that we're all on the same page in terms of understanding the value of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and even working from the same definitions, if you will, as an organization, so that everybody in our organization knows what this means to our organization. Beyond that, it is implementing the infrastructure that we need to have in place. And when I say infrastructure, I'm alluding to what are the goals and metrics that we need to have in place to measure what it is that we're doing? What are the programs that we need to implement? What do we need to stop, start, and continue doing to be a more diversity-friendly organization? It's deepening our commitment to supplier diversity. And as I alluded to earlier, with all of our projects, that's top of mind. But it's also making our workforce, our workplace, reflect the diversity that's in our marketplace. That too is a huge priority for us. And last but not least, if there's one thing I would add to what has been said already, we need to make it clear, business needs to make it clear that supplier diversity is part of building a meaningful value proposition in diverse communities where you want to do business in the first place. To the extent that we know what we want diverse communities to consume our products, to consume our content, but we also need to be mindful of the opportunity and access that Camille alluded to, which is at the heart of what these communities want as well. And to the extent that we can have a symbiotic relationship, it can be mutually beneficial for both sides.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Isu. One final call for any questions for our panelists. You can put those questions in slido.com, slido.com. I don't see that any have come through so far.
Well, Camille,
you have.
I have a question, Tanisha.
Absolutely, you go right ahead.
I have a question for Camille and Brandon. I also have a question for Leonard. Camille and Brandon, I want to know if you could share some of the strategies you all have used to navigate some of the challenges that you talked about to help you get to where you are today.
I'm going to take my ladies first privilege on that, Brandon. The best thing I can say is, I think what somebody said earlier, it's a long game. Yeah. It is developing the reputation of, being a results producer, and having that reputation then be evidenced by relationships with a number of different people. Because particularly, when pursuing businesses with larger corporations and financial institutions, it's not just a one person blessing that you're going through. It's, there's a purchasing department process. There's for me, it's the in-house counsel team. It's also, the frontline bankers and different people. So there are a number of different relationships that you have to cultivate in a organic and authentic way along the process. And the other thing is, I think that has been the best thing to have is already have for us, materials that evidence the fact that we are qualified. I think putting together, your pitch book or whatever it is that communicates your company's credentials and having that read several times, it helps leave something with the people you talk to that helps them become your next advocate, that helps equip them with information about why you are, in fact, the person that they are bringing up, because it helps further the story. But again, it's my two answers are a long game and equipping other people with information and evidence that helps them be your advocate.
Well said.
I think for us, we try to put ourselves in situations where we can network better by getting involved in the community, getting involved with different organizations, because you never know who you're going to meet. We've also done different things where we have people, when we go shopping around for loans, we have people maybe present on our behalf. It's kind of knowing what you're good at and knowing what you're not good at. That's also important. So I'm not saying that we're not good at that, but we know that certain people in certain positions are better at getting or executing what we want done. And so those are a few things that I would say that we do, how we strategize.
I love that, having somebody else present sometimes. And so Leonard, my question to you was, I'm sure, and look, you're the guru, you've been at this supplier diversity, talk about the long game, you've been at it for a long time. Can you, a lot of times, again, we talk about the promise of diversity, including supplier diversity, but can you, for the benefit of the audience, give an example or some examples of the Camilles and the Brandons that you have come across at Disney and how they've impacted the organization?
That's a great question, Isu, and we have many examples, across the enterprise of companies that have come in and just done a fantastic job. One story comes to mind around a diverse marketing firm that we came in that did some work for us, and they have been executing with the senior levels of the Walt Disney Company, the Bob Igers and the Bob Chapeks, and they've just been doing a fantastic job. Right here in Central Florida, when we think about, some of the companies that support us, Coca-Cola Florida, right? They are one of the largest Black-owned businesses in the state. And I think probably in the country. And Troy Taylor and his team do a fantastic job for us. And those are just a few. I mean, I could go on and on, but I think what it comes down to, when we think about how we operate and how any corporation operates in this dynamic marketplace that we're in today, is that inclusion is going to be the key, right? Inclusion is the key to market relevance. It's going to be the key to growing your customer base. It's around making sure that you're finding the best the marketplace has to offer wherever it may be. And when you get to a place where your company is starting to reflect the life experience of all of your customers, that's when you're going to start to really see an impact. And so that's what, at Disney we strive to do. And that's what I hope to see other companies do, especially here in Central Florida, but across the country.
Hey, Isu, can I give an example of one company that stood out when they made their presentation to me that I had to pass them on to our supplier diversity group? And I'll tell you what stood out for me with this company. This was an IT company. He found out some associations in Florida Blue that I knew, and so the connection was made. But he knew how to tell his story in a manner that our company was comfortable in viewing presentations. It was the same style, it was the same format. He didn't come with some off the shelf, not that you can't go to the internet and pull off a presentation slide, but he presented his information in a manner that our business was already accustomed to seeing: numbers, results, opportunities. and him being able to tell that story and give the right data, to give the right background, I had no choice but to pass him on, because he already was educated on how we prefer to see information delivered. And so I would encourage folks to do their homework. Be persistent, not overwhelming someone, but be persistent in your message. And it takes discipline to do that. So I think all of those things are very key and important when you think about presenting information. You have to tell the right story, but think about how you're telling your story as well.
And can I just add on to that, Tony, because all of those things are exactly on point. I would also encourage folks to, leverage organizations like Tanishas, right? Tanisha has folks who can help you not just make connections with folks like me, but also provide insights that can help you create and deliver that message in an authentic way, as Tony and Camille, both talked about. And so, there are resources out there. I think oftentimes folks don't leverage them in the way that they could.
Yes.
Leonard, I think that's well said. I was going to chime in and offer a similar advice. In fact, I'm sure all of us from at one period or another have met entrepreneurs that have said, well, why do I need to be a member of the chamber? Well, I think what Tony articulated, what Camille articulated, what Brandon articulated, that's part of Camille's value proposition at the chamber, is to help, to the best of their ability, help you get procurement ready for organizations.
Thank you all for that. Yes, and Tony, I love what you said. You have to do your research. You have to be prepared. You can't have one presentation that you present to Florida Blue, to the Orlando Magic, to Disney. You need to know your audience, and you're going to have to work and tweak things a little bit. And I think that ties into what Brandon said earlier. Sometimes they get with other folks to team in and go do their presentations. And it may say, this is one that Brandon can take because he knows this particular person, but someone else may be better suited for another. So you really have to put the work in. And as Leonard said earlier, you have to be persistent. Contract opportunities don't fall out the sky. They don't happen overnight. You have to be persistent and you have to put the work in. And at the African American Chamber of Commerce of Central Florida, we're here to help our members do so. But before we move on, let's bring up our code again, because we do have one more poll question. And we can scan the QR code. Our final poll question for our audience is, how impactful was today's discussion on supplier diversity and the positive benefits it can have for your business? While that's coming up, we did have a question come in. Okay, let's see what this is. Give it a second. 93%, very impactful. Great job, panel. I like that. 94%, I'm watching it consistently go up. 94% found it very impactful, and no one found it not impactful. 6% somewhat impactful. So great job. I'm so glad that all the attendees found this panel impactful. I do want to go back, for we have another minute or two. A question did come through for Isu. Isu, do you believe efforts of DEI delve into intersectionality beyond race and gender? For example, socioeconomic status and sexual orientation?
100%. I appreciate the question because it does give me the opportunity to talk about the various dimensions of diversity that a lot of times are not part of the conversation, but 100% right. I will go so far as to say, listen, when we start talking about fostering a culture of respect, belonging, and inclusion, those are universal concepts. Find me the person who doesn't want to work for a place where they feel like they have the opportunity to contribute in a very meaningful way. And as I said, the culture itself breeds inclusion and respect and belonging. So to the point of intersectionality, I think that's at the heart of the matter. Cognitive diversity, thought diversity, understanding your team and the various learning styles that are on your team and how to leverage that, how to leverage your own diversity, what it is you bring to the table. These are all part of the various dimensions of diversity that absolutely will be evident in the strategy we produce at the Magic, but should be evident in general.
Thank you for that, Isu. And as we close out, I want to thank all of our panelists again for joining us, and thank everyone, all of the attendees, for joining us virtually today. We hope you can join the Orlando Magic at the final installment of our Walk With Us Town Hall series, which is next Wednesday at 11 a.m., focused on social justice game changers. Again, that's next Wednesday, 11 a.m., and the focus will be social justice game changers. You can visit orlandomagic.com/walkwithus for additional information. Thank you again for joining us, and I bid you all a wonderful day and rest of the week. Happy Black History Month.